Continuity and change is synonymous to Indian subcontinent, and I'm not only talking in terms of our eating habit, our language, our way of dressing up, our rituals and traditions, but I'm talking in terms of landscape choice. Now, landscape is that one piece of the puzzle which is often ignored when decoding the past, or we often don't talk about in public discourse or in public spaces, because landscape is what everything else revolves around. You might find this very statemental weird, but that's the truth. Where you choose to settle actually defines a lot of other things. It defines how you survive in that particular landscape, how you sustain in that particular landscape, and how you grow your settlement. So, given that very concept, a lot of these ancient settlements have carefully chosen these landscape areas and carefully have spread across the subcontinent. And as the time went by, even today in 21st century, we adopted the same phenomenon to have our cities and also to have our settlements in place. We need to have water, we need to have proper amenities around our settlement. The kind of amenities we require today might differ from thousands of years ago, but the concept remains the same. Since the concept has remained the same, many of your cities today have an ancient past. The cities do evolve with given globalization, the race of urbanization, but also they leave behind traces, and these traces are buried beneath the ground and you can't see them. You might have a skyscraper on top of them and you might not even know. Given this very concept, you have cities like Delhi, which has a very ancient past. You have Janapadas of 6th century BCE, which again have continued to thrive, like Mathura, which is even today, which evolved from a cultural and hub for art, and it was a important school of art, and also an important religious center. Even today is a settlement, right? Delhi is another example. You have other major cities of the subcontinent which sort of have this very ancient past. I recently visited Pondicherry, and very close to Pondicherry was Arikameru, an ancient port, which was not in a good condition though, but again was close to Pondicherry, which defined that ancient past, right? So, in today's column, I will be talking about another modern 21st century city which had an ancient past and which we all know. I'll be talking about the ancient city of Patliputra. Hello and welcome to another this week's column. I'm Disha Ahluwalia. I'm an archaeologist and I write regular column for the print. Patliputra. The moment I say this name, you know that I'm talking about the ancient capital of Magadhan Empire, one of the illustrious empire of ancient India, and also the seat of King Ashoka, one of the greatest emperors of Indian subcontinent of ancient India. And I'm also talking about the modern city of Patna, which is very interesting, right? So, all of those who are living in Patna right now, you should know that you are living on top of the ancient heritage, which goes as far back as the Magadhan Empire. Now, Patna is an ancient, not only an ancient capital of Magadhan Empire, was an important seat. It was an important cultural hub. So its origin itself is, akin to what I was saying in the introduction, the concept of landscape evolution, right? From a smaller settlement, a settlement, a landscape is chosen for a settlement because of various reasons, and then it sort of grows into a big city, and then it continue and keeps on continue to grow into the very into the very 21st century. So when the foundation of Patliputra was laid down, it was actually a small village. Now the Magadhan seat prior to Patliputra was at Rajgriha, uh, during the reign of Ajatashatru and also his predecessors. Rajgriha, however, although it was a strategic location, because it was surrounded by hills, but it sort of did not let a lot of trade and cultural flow into the city as it should have. So Ajatashatru laid the foundation of a second capital, a new capital, in a village called Paligrama, and it was his successor who laid the foundation of the big city that came to be known as Patliputra. Now, after this, a lot of written records have been left behind by Chinese travelers like Fahian and Huinsang, who have left an enormous amount of literature describing the nook and corner of the city. So actually, Fayan, when he visited Patliputra, he actually found the ruins of Patliputra, but he does document a lot of the illustrious capital of the Magadhan Empire. But it was Chandragupta Maurya's Greek ambassador Megasthenes who records the extent of the city, its dimension, and that it had 64 gates. It was fully made up of timber. It had a moat, surrounding the very city, and many other things, and how the ancient capital actually worked. But here I just want to point out the architectural features that Megasthenes have mentioned, and they were again echoed by Fahian and Huinsang in their respective records, which are gold mine for those who want to work on Patliputra or those who have worked on Patliputra. But archaeology does not work like that. Although we do take a lot of these written records into consideration, we need to find physical remains, right? That is the reason why sites like Purana Killa are excavated again and again. And if today you go to Purana Killa, which is been excavated at the moment by Archaeological Survey of India, you would see that there are different layers and stratas, and you will not only find one particular time period and the remains of that particular time period, but you will find an array and complete vertical evolution of culture. Similarly, at Patliputra too, one needs to, if one have written records about its growth, about its evolution from a small village to this big capital of Magadhan Empire, the seat of power in the east, we need to find its remains, right? And I know it's difficult because a lot of sites today in the 21st century are sort of destroyed, or you don't have space. But then when it was first initiated, the excavation, when it was initiated, there was not much of urbanization, there was a lot of space. So in that respect, these excavation reports and also these travel records are gold mine, because today, even if you might not be able to excavate, you have these records which tells you that yes, Patliputra existed. The race to find the ancient capital of Patliputra began in 1700s. It actually began with the memoir of Maps of Hindustan published by Sir James Rennell in 1788. He mentions Patliputra in detail, and also the first one who find this correlation or establish this correlation with the modern day Patna with the ancient capital of Patliputra. Following which, a lot of other explorers, including Sir Alexander Cunningham and others, tried to find the remains of the ancient city the way they were mentioned in these archival records, be it the Chinese travelers, Fayan Hunsang, and others, including James Reynolds' records. So they were the ones who started to trace the remains of Patliputra, but you cannot find, as you go ahead with development, city, a lot of landscape changes, and you need to resort to excavation, the traditional method of excavation, to find the traces of ancient city or any other ancient settlement. So it was in 1892 and 1899 when L.A. Waddell, an archaeologist, decided to excavate the modern city of Patna, and his excavation was actually which laid the foundation, or which sort of gave impetus to the excavation, the investigation, the archaeological investigation that followed, that spanned for over 40 years. So during his excavation, he found the traces of a palisade. He was aware prior to his excavation of about the existence of about 20-30 beams that were excavated near the emperor's moat in Patna. He was aware that there are a lot of these remains, architectural remains, were being reported from around Patna during modern construction. So he was aware. So during his excavation, he already information that he has gained sort of proved correct when he found evidence of a palisade. And these beams were very important in terms of the architecture. He also documented a lot of architectural remains and sculptural remains in areas in Bulandi Bagh, in Choti Pahadi, and Panch Pahadi, which are in which bear the same name in modern Patna as well. And this information which laid the foundation, but it was D.B. Spooner's excavation which took the ancientness of the city of modern Patna, and also which actually took the this race to find Patna to a very next level, altogether. D.B. Spooner decided to excavate Patna in early 1900s. About 1912 to 1950 is the time period where the excavations by D.B. Spooner were undertaken. And this excavation was quite interesting actually. And while I was researching, I found out, when D.B. Spooner was excavating, his excavation was actually funded by Ratanji Jamshedji Tata, because Tata was trying to find the Parsi ancestry, and he wanted very badly to connect Patna or Patliputra to the Parsi ancestry. He wanted to prove, and that's what D.B. Spooner did. D.B. Spooner, with his excavation, wanted to prove that the ancient capital of Patliputra and the Mauryans had a Parsi or Iranian ancestry. That is, of course, debated. It was debated in detail by later excavators and also scholars who studied Magadhan Empire and archaeology of Magadhan Empire in detail. But D.B. Spooner's excavation was very important. He found multiple pillars and an 80-pillared hall at Kumrahar, which he then pointed, to and labeled it as a modern pillar hall. He was the one who pushed this Persian connection because of these pillars that were found. And of course, the Ashokan connection to the city of Patliputra was already established by Waddell, where he found a lot of Ashokan pillars. But D.B. Spooner wanted to prove that, see, the inspiration of architecture in Patna have actually come from West. It is the Iranian influence that is led to the building of this construction of this massive pillared hall. Later scholars have their own reservation. A. Ghosh went ahead later on and said that this could be the place where Ashoka had actually had his council instead of being the seat of Chandragupta Maurya. Of course, we don't have much evidence to say which is right, but of course, certainly this was a palace, this was a pillared hall, and this discovery in itself is very important because it talks about this presence of a sort of a palace in Patliputra itself. And also what Waddell in his previous excavation prior to D.B. Spooner has spoken about, that a palace should be somewhere near Choti Pahadi, Panch Pahadi. That sort of became, it was correlated with D.B. Spooner's excavation. After D.B. Spooner also found a lot of original, Mughal floors and other evidence such as moat, which sort of supported the existence of Mauryan of Patliputra. His excavation details are there in my column. You can go ahead and read them. Following D.B. Spooner's excavation was another important excavation by A.S. Altekar and V.N. Mishra. Their excavation actually was proof that yes, in fact, it is a pillared hall which Spooner had excavated initially, and also they did not support D.B. Spooner's claim of it having any Persian connection. However, they also dug many monastic complexes. Another important point during Patliputra's excavation was that in the records it's mentioned that the city of Patliputra was destroyed due to a massive flood. A flood in Ganges sort of destroyed the ancient city. When A.S. Altekar and V.N. Mishra were excavating the site, they found no traces of flood. They actually found that whatever D.B. Spooner has mentioned about the remains of ash around the pillar was basically traces left behind by treasure hunters who actually have taken away the sculptures from the site itself, but not the evidence of any other destruction or any other destruction such as fire. So the evidence of flood, the absence of evidence of flood is clear indication that a lot of modern Patna still holds the key to ancient city of Patliputra, which is buried in the modern city of Patna. Along with that, they also not only found the remains of modern but also the later periods such as Shung, Kushan, Gupta and post-Gupta period. So one can see that the city that we today is called as Patna have had a very long chronology, cultural evolution of sorts. Post Vaddel's A.S. Altekar and V.N. Mishra's excavation, there were other explorations which were also funded by the Archaeological Survey of India, as also state archaeology, independent scholars. But these excavations are very important. And remember, they are spanned over 40 years. So these excavations are actually where the actual evidence of Patliputra were dug out, was traced, was unearthed. Post that, we don't have much. What is today happening is that there are places such as Choti Pahadi, Panch Pahadi, but the only names have remained. The stupas and other monastic remains have sort of disappeared in the race of 21st century urbanization. We do not find any remain today at all, and I feel and I fear that in coming years we might not find much because it will be destroyed. So there is an urgent need to not only preserve what has already been excavated and also to research and re-excavate a lot of these areas, which can give us more clue with modern day technology, which can also sort of be non-invasive in nature. So we have a lot of tools on our disposal at the moment. So I hope that we use this, and heritage and archaeological heritage is constantly being it's under threat. I have spoken about another such ancient city called Shishupalgarh. The link for that will be in the description box below. But Patliputra is another very ancient capital which we need to protect, and I urge that we all with this sort of try and at least initiate a conversation of saving archaeological heritage. So for more information and detailed information on this week's column, follow the link for the column on Patliputra. And for more, subscribe to the channel and also follow the print on the social media handles given in the description box below. Till next week, thank you for joining me.